In this scan workflow, we're going to show you how to use the vertical tray fixture, which is a new tool that comes with the F8, and it is meant for scanning triple trays. And in case you don't want to use this, we also, of course, support the old impression scanning fixtures, and we're also going to show you how to switch between the two in case you change your mind during the workflow. To initiate the scan workflow, we need to create a new order in Dental Manager. In this case, we have a lower first molar. We're going to mark a crown as our work type. The object type will be impression. And in this case, we are working with a posterior triple tray. Once you're done with the order for definition, you can go on to scanning. When Scan It Dental opens, the first thing that you'll notice on the left-hand side is that it's giving you some instructions. These infographics basically are here to tell you what to do and when, so that the scanner gets the right input at the right time. By default, in this particular scanning workflow, the first thing that you will actually see in the infographics is the old impression scanning fixture. And that's not the main thing in our workflow video today. It's actually the new tool that comes with F8, the vertical tray fixture. So how do we change between these two fixtures in the software? That's very easy. We have basically a drop-down menu on the left-hand side of the screen, and there you can pick whichever media you want to use for scanning your impressions. And this time we will just pick the vertical fixture. With the vertical fixture, it's important to pay attention to the markings on this little fixture. So the first thing is this little curved cutout, and that basically indicates that it should be positioned on position number 1 inside the scanner here in the anterior of the scanner. The other thing that is significant in the positioning is the fact that you have one side for the lower arch and one side for the upper arch. How do you know which one is which? Well, we have a classic occlusal chart in the lower arch form, and then on the other side of the fixture we have the upper jaw shape, and those are your cues to remembering which side is which. And the software is also basically telling you which side it wants to look at first. So what I like to usually have a look at first is, okay, which side is my upper jaw, which side is my lower jaw on the actual triple tray. And then I just want to have my fixture the right way around in front of me. So I have the lower jaw part here facing me with the cutout, and that also corresponds to the direction that it has in the scanner. Now the software is asking me to place the vertical fixture on position 1 with the maxillary facing the inside of the scanner. So we want the upper jaw to be facing the back of the scanner. How do we do that? Well, usually I just rotate the triple tray as it says in the infographic and the instructions. And then what I need to do is I need to pinch the impression fixture, and I will just make sure that the handle of the tray is secured inside it. And now I have the lower jaw where I have my preparation facing the side that is going outside the scanner or is in the anterior of the scanner, and I have the upper jaw facing the back end. In case you have actually made a gypsum cast of the die that you are going to be working on for the restoration, you're actually able to scan it in the same workflow as well and then align it with the primary scan, so you have a nice and clean and prepared margin and die for the design. In order to do that, you need to enable Scan Dies feature. For scanning a separate die or separate dies in the same workflow, we are going to ask the infographic and the information says, we're going to use position number 2 and the height adapter as our main tools here. We have the multi-die fixture, and they are nicely connected together. And then finally, we of course have our restoration, the prepared die. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna use as central a location on the multi-die fixture as we possibly can and place it in the middle. That's it. Now we have our scan objects oriented the right way, and we just need to place them in the right positions. Now, at this stage, we are looking at the scan of the upper jaw from the impression tray, and the scan software is asking you to just inspect it. If there are any places, any undercuts that haven't been scanned properly, you can use the detailed adaptive scanning to try and capture some more detail. The primary goal of this step is, of course, to trim the scan, so we need to let the software know which areas on the scan and on the impression tray are relevant for your design, and that's what we're going to do now. I will use a spline tool to mark the area that I want to keep from my design. A nicely trimmed impression material usually helps at this stage. Your goal is to make a closed loop with your spline, and that will be your working model for the upper jaw. In this step, we will place the annotation for the restoration that we are going to make, and that is to be placed on the buckle margin, as you see in our example. And then finally, of course, we need to make sure that we have enough or sufficient scan data for the lower jaw. If you're happy with the scan quality, then it's time to trim the scan. Using the same logic as in the upper jaw step, you want to define the area that you find relevant for your work. In this stage, it's your job to check that the upper and lower jaw impressions have been aligned correctly in the software. And if there are any issues with that, you can also choose to realign them manually. In this case, it looks quite okay, so we can move on to the next step. Now, in this stage, you can inspect the quality for the scan of the separate die. You can also trim it and check the alignment quality for that. If everything looks as it should, you can continue on to inspecting the entire scan, and then moving on to your design workflow.